Good day and welcome back to Slay the Spire 2. I'm going to talk a little bit in this video, just while we play in the background a bit, still yet to get my first win, about whether Slay the Spire 2 is more difficult so far than Slay the Spire 1. Now I want to preface this by saying I've played a bit. I got to Ascension 7 on all the characters except for the Watcher in Slay the Spire 1. So I'm a decent player. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I'm decent. Look, I have yet to win in Slay the Spire 2. I wouldn't say it's because of difficulty. I don't have options. I don't have like every single card, right? I don't have every single, potion. Don't have anything like that. I think also, all things to be considered, I do feel like the game probably needs a little bit more balance overall. I think especially when you don't have everything at your disposal, I think some of the fights are a little bit all over the place. With that being said, though, I do really think that Slay the Spire 2, for me at least, is harder than Slay the Spire 1. So I do think it's, definitely harder. And I think it's very easy to understand why. Slay the Spire 1 had essentially, let's say 4 characters, right? Watcher, Defect, Silent, and Ironclad. Now, you just have more. Like it sounds silly to say, but you genuinely just have more. You have more characters, which means you have more balancing to do. Even one more character is still a character that essentially is going to have an impact on how you play this game. And I think that aspect is still something being worked out. Also, I think early on, it's also perceived difficulty. Because I think the thing is that you are going to have, of course, understandably so, a lack of knowledge around the bosses. And I would say the bosses in, for me, the bosses in Slay the Spire 2 are way different to Slay the Spire 1. Slay the Spire 1's bosses could be kind of amounted to being really HP sponges with very minimal kind of mechanics. Slay the Spire 2, these guys are, there's some interesting bosses, right? And some of them feel like they're intentionally there to sort of pseudo counter builds. I know it's not the case, I guess, in theory, but it does feel like they are kind of sometimes there to just sort of counter a build, right? And that's okay. Like, of course, that's absolutely fine, depending on how you view it. Like, it's okay that the developers are building ways in the game to kind of counter some of the insanity that you can experience. But it is definitely, for me, noticeable that certain bosses are just going to, more so than Slay the Spire 1. Like Slay the Spire 1, there was definitely a boss or two where like a build might start off slow or maybe be more ineffective than others. But here this feels sorry, I was just looking at the build there. This one feels way more like you're gonna come up against a boss where it's like, ooh, I don't know if I can, I don't know if my build is going to hold down the fort against that. And I think that's interesting. I think that's interesting because I think that speaks to clear game design. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that Slay the Spire 2 having a naturally more progressive difficulty than Slay the Spire 1 is absolutely befitting of the game's structure, core audience, and everything like that. Because I think, like, the people who play Slay the Spire 2, look, of course, there could still be people who haven't played Slay the Spire 1, right? And I'm sure there's plenty that are that way. But for me, like, I find that it's, just 100%. Slay the Spire 2 was built with a lot of love for people who played Slay the Spire 1. And so I think that's also showing, because it's like, well, definitely with that, you probably want to look into, like, growing into Slay the Spire 2. And people who played Slay the Spire 1, we don't want to necessarily go through that growth aspect again. We don't want to relearn the game. We don't need to relearn the game. We played Slay the Spire 1. In fact, we're probably quite, I would say, at this point, well versed in Slay the Spire, so much to the point where, like, we know things innately. We have prefaced builds, we have different kind of character builds and things that we're trying to actively run. So I think honestly it just speaks to the fact that they made this game knowing that players would be familiar with Slay the Spire, and instead of making the game almost kind of like build up slowly from the beginning, right? Instead they were like, no, we're gonna have this game just be nuts from the beginning, straight nuts, go crazy. I don't know, I find that very, very, very commendable, because for me, like, I just think when you build a sequel to a game, what's your biggest kind of fear? Your biggest fear is that you don't match the success of the first one. And so what a lot of people do, they try to make the game even more accessible. You can definitely play this one. You didn't like the first one, couldn't get there? Don't worry, you definitely can. Well, now it's like, awesome, hit it. And I think that's something that's so cool for me. So I was very, very, very happy with the fact that Slay the Spire 2 is more difficult than Slay the Spire 1. And I think if you don't like it, I don't know, maybe you should try out a different game, because I hope that, look, I think some things need a little bit of balance rework, but I hope they keep that general feeling of difficulty that the game has, and I think that'll bode it well in the future. But that's it for me. Just wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit, because I think, like, for me, it's so interesting, because it's not something I've seen very often in the realm of gaming. So but that's it for me. See you guys next time. Bye.